Hi, I'm Garrett with IDC Woodcraft, and I'd like to welcome you to this short video to teach you a little trick about nodes and how you can accomplish some things. So I've gotten an email from Judy, someone who watches this channel, and I've actually helped quite a few times. She sent me a file saying she's having some trouble connecting some lines. So what we have, first of all, let's just take a look. We have this logo that she's creating. It's JD Crafters. So what she has is a D and a J. And what she has circled here are the two areas that she wants to have lines connected to. Let's fix this. There we go. She wants a line up and down on the D there, and then a line up and down on the J right here. So the effect that they're trying to get is the J overlaps the D on top, and then it goes behind the D over here. So kind of a 3D effect. Actually, it'd be an interesting little project to accomplish. Her email says that she's having trouble getting these lines connected to get them to join to these. So what we're going to do is we're going to go over to the drawing real quick, right here. And there it is, JD Crafters. And we are going to get these lines connected. So the first thing is we have two letters here, and they are overlapped, and they are in a mode what they call welded. So when you type in a letter, we're just going to do that for fun so you see what we have. And we'll click right there, and we're going to type in a J. And so we'll close that. Now the J itself is a vector. It's a fourth kind of vector that Vectric creates. So when I click it, it highlights, and that's the letter. The whole thing is a letter. Now if I come over here and I click the J, now you see the J and part of the D highlight. So let's do this text thing again, because I want you to show you how they got to this, and then I'll show you how to get these lines merged back into these things. So I'm going to hit the letter, and now I'm going to type in D, and we will close that. And we're going to just use the cursor buttons, the arrow buttons, to make them cross over each other, just like that. So now we have a J and a D that are crossed over, and we're going to select them both by just creating a window from right to left and just touching all the lines. And now you see we have a J and D selected. We go to the edit objects area right here, and the second row, first icon, is called weld selected objects. When we hit that, we're going to get a little pop-up that asks us to replace or keep. And what that's asking is, what we're doing is we are creating new vectors that are going to match the J and the D. And we're going to weld them. They're going to turn into lines that will no longer be letters. You'll see what happens in a minute. So when we hit replace, what it's going to do is going to replace the letters with the vectors. If we hit keep, it'll keep the original letters and put vectors over on top of them as a welded vector. We are simply going to replace this. So we're going to select that. And now you see what happened. We have this effect where the J and the D have become a merged component, which is the same thing that is going on over here. And that's how they accomplish that. But now they want to get the effect of the J over top of the D and going behind the D over here. So what we have to do is we have to separate components out. Judy is trying to draw lines, one right here, up and down, and trying to get them to connect. And she's also doing it over here and over here. What she has to do first is cut the nodes, or the transition points that are defining each corner on this letter, on the J and the D. So here's what we do. We're going to select everything. We're just going to create a box and highlight it all. Now you can see the J and the D are now selected. And what we're going to do is press the N for node. And you see all the nodes pop up. Now nodes are transition points in your lines when your machine runs. This is when the Vectric software creates a G code. Every point that you see that was just created is a point where it's going to transition in the G code. So What we have to do is, because this line and this line are currently one component, I'm going to get out of there and just select that, and you can see when I select the J right here, the D lights up, indicating that's one whole vector. We need to separate those. So we're going to select everything again, and we want this little area down there. And we're going to hit N to get back to node. And all we're going to do is hover over the node on the corner and hit C, the letter C for candy. It actually stands for cut. And what that's going to do is that's going to cut the connection. It'll keep the nodes, but it'll cut the connection. So we hit that, and you see that the node disappeared over here. Now there's still a node over here, but you'll see what happens in just a minute. What it did, it just turned off this line. Now we'll just select it. Basically, we have this line selected right now, but now since we cut it, this is a brand new line, and here's what we just did. Let's see if it works. So now these two are not connected. By hitting the C, while we hovered over that node, we broke that connection. Now we have to do the same thing over here. So while this is highlighted, I'm going to hit N, I'm going to hover over that node, and I'm going to hit C. And now when I escape out of node by hitting escape, and I select this, now you can see this part of the D is no longer highlighted. That indicates that that is separate now. So we're going to come back and we're going to select these two elements right there, and we're going to hit N for node, and we're going to hover over this node, and we're going to hit C again. And now you can see this part is no longer highlighted. You see we have a bunch of nodes right over here. When we cut this, these nodes should disappear. So we're going to hit the C, and they did not disappear. And let's see if we can figure out why. Oh, because it's still connected down here. I'm going to select that. I'm going to come down at the bottom here and cut that one too. Cut. Now it's separate. Those nodes disappeared. That means that that is now a separate line. We have to continue to do this to the remaining three corners. So we've done it to these two corners, we've done it to these two corners. We've done it to this one, so now we just have this one, and this one. So let's take care of that. I'm selecting this line while I'm in node mode. There is our node. I'm going to hit C, and we're simply cutting that. So now we have two vectors here. We've got this vector, and we have this vector. So we've completely separated what used to be one complete vector. We're going to come over here, and it looks like we're already disconnected here because this part did not light up. And then we're going to select here, and that's disconnected already too. So we are in good shape and ready to go. I'm just going to click each one to make sure the corner nodes aren't going on and are still attached to other elements. So I'm just selecting each different item, and we are good to go. Okay, so that's it. We have got that. Now we are going to get a line. We're going to draw it. So we're going to use the polyline tool under create vectors. It's a little Z looking line. That's a straight line. Now we want to make sure that our snaps are turned on, both of them right up there. The first two, they'll have a little box around them when they're turned on, just so you can see when I click it and turn it off, it no longer has a box around it. So I'm turning it back on. And what that's going to do is that's going to make this thing snap to that corner. So the line will start right at the intersection. And what I'm gonna see, we might have a problem here, but let's find out. I'm gonna select that, click that there, and then I'm gonna click right there and snap to that line. I'm gonna hit spacebar and escape. Now I want to select that line. So it's an independent line, which is exactly what I want. Okay, I thought sometimes Vectric will connect lines, and it might have connected it to this line here, but it didn't. So right away, we're just going to hold our shift button down. And now you can, we're going to select the line down below, and we are going to come over to edit objects. At the bottom, second icon in is a join close vector with a line. We're going to select that. Now we selected that once, and now I'm going to just click off. So we've deselected this line, and we're going to select it again, and you're going to see now it connected that line. We're going to hold Shift button down while this one is selected, and we're going to select the upper part of the D, and we're going to come over and hit this join, close the vectors with a line again, and we select that, and now I deselected it over here. I just clicked off to the side and click it, and now our D is selected all the way up. So we're in good shape so far. We're going to do the same thing here. We're going to draw another line right here and right there. I'm going to space and escape, and then I'm going to select that line, make sure it didn't join anything. Okay, good. And then I'm going to hit Shift, and I'm going to select the lower line there. We're going to join that vector again. Now that's joined. Now we're going to hold Shift again, and we're going to select the upper line and select Join again. And now I'm going to click off right here and then go back into it. And now you can see that is connected. Now we're going to do the same thing here. We're just going to repeat these steps. We are going to go back to polyline, select a polyline, draw a line from corner to corner. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to hit the space bar, and you can see by my cursor there's a little zigzag line next to my cursor. That means that this is still active, the draw polyline mode. So while it's active, we're going to start it again and come down to the corner. Then the space bar will allow us to terminate this line and start over again. So I just hit space bar. Now I'm hitting escape. And now we're going to select that line. I'm going to select the bottom line. We are going to join that with a line. And then we're going to select the top line and join that with a line. And then we're going to come over and we're going to hold our Shift button down again and select that line, join with a line, and then we're going to select this bottom line and join with a line. And that has solved our problem. So now we can select this J, and you can see we've got complete solid lines going through there, which is exactly what we want. And then here we have the same thing up there, and it comes around there. So there are some other issues that are going to be introduced by doing this, and it really comes down to how is this going to be created to give this effect. That is a different video, and I'm not quite sure how I want to approach this. What I would probably do on this is, because we have this D section here, we probably want to join this lower section to that upper section. But the funny thing is we have this line joined already. So we're going to try something. Now what we're going to do, let me think about this for a minute. This is an interesting little issue that I can see that they are going to have when they go to create this project. What I'm seeing is this will not be an area that they will be able to cut. They'll have to be able to pocket this all out. This probably has to be done in several layers to get the effect that they want. For example, this area right in here is still a pocket, as is this. It has to go below the letters unless they're going to actually engrave the letters. So I was thinking, are the letters recessed or the letters raised? So I'm coming from the mindset that the letters are raised, meaning that this will be a pocket. Yeah, in order to solve this, this has to be done in multiple layers. Let's go ahead and do it. All right, so I'm going to select everything, and I'm noticing something right here. Look at this. And I'm not sure what it is. Not showing up. We're going to do a vector validator. I've selected these things, and in the vector validator, under Edit Objects, there's the second row at the very right is a button called Vector Validator. We're going to select it, and I'm afraid we're going to see something. Yep, exactly what I thought. There are issues going on right here. And the issues that we have are intersection issues. So the reason is because this is a line on this D that comes up and it just stops there. And Vectric technically is saying, well, I can machine this, but I really don't know what to do with it. Kind of a whimsical place to be where you can actually create your project, but you don't really know how you're going to create your project. So I'm going to take this video a little bit further to solve this problem, because I know that I'll get an email from them saying, okay, we got that. Now how do we handle this problem? All right, so this is exactly what we're going to do. We're going to close this. We're going to create two layers using these things. So I've got them both highlighted. I'm going to right click and I'm going to come down in the menu and say copy to layer, and we're going to select new layer, and we're going to call this JD1. I'm going to say okay, and then I'm simply going to right click again. I'm going to say copy to new layer, and I'm going to say JD2. Okay, so up here we have layers. We have layer 1 and a bitmap. So the bitmap, there's nothing on the bitmap. We're just going to turn that off. We're going to turn layer 1 off, and now all that other stuff went away. And if you see, looks like we got a little purple, a little black. That's because we have JD on 2 separate layers, on JD1, JD2, and layer 1. I'm going to turn all layers off, and then I'm just going to show you. So we're going to turn layer 1 on. There's the entire logo. So we're going to turn that off. Then we're going to go to JD1, turn that on, and there's JD. And we're going to turn that off, and we're going to go to JD2, and there is JD. All right, so this is going to be an interesting little issue to deal with. So what we're going to do is, for this layer, we're going to handle the D. What we have to do is create a D as a whole closed vector. Whether we are doing a Vcarve or we are doing raised letters, this has to be treated as a whole vector. So this layer, we are going to change the name of it from JD. We're going to change it to D. And then the other one we're going to change to J. All right, so now we want the D layer to be active. Right up here, there's nothing selected. It says J, we want D. So D is selected, and it is the only one turned on. And so we are going to eliminate the J out of this. We don't want it. And here is the problem that Vectric is running into. It doesn't know what to do with that. Okay, so we are simply going to close these lines. We're going to pick our polyline, and we're going to come to that corner and come to that corner. And now we have that line. We're going to hit spacebar, so we're going to restart the line mode, and we're going to come to this corner and then come to this corner, and then space, escape, and we're going to select that D, and then we're going to select that new line by holding shift button down. And then we are going to join with a line, and then we're going to do it again with the next line, join with a line, and then we're going to do it with the final line, join with a line. So the D is now taken care of. If I click the D, it's all one vector. That's exactly what we want. Now we're going to switch layers to the J layer. So you come up here and select J, and now you can see it's checked there, and it says J up here. We're going to turn it on by clicking the light bulb and turn off the D. And there we go. So now we want to get rid of the D. So we're going to select the D, delete. We're going to delete everything about the D. And now you see we have an open vector on the J. So we're going to do the same thing. We're going to select a polyline, and we are simply going to draw lines from point to point there. Spacebar to restart the line mode, and then select that one. Spacebar, and now we are going to select the ball on the end of the J, hold our shift button down and select that line, and we are going to join with a line, and I'm going to hit that twice because I'm not sure if it's going to connect both sides. So I just want to make sure it's connecting both sides. In fact, just to make sure, I'm going to select that and click the vector validator, and then press the button, search selected, and no alarms are popping up, so we're good to go there. We're going to do the same thing over here. We are going to select the J, the big part of the J, and then we're going to select the line. We're going to hit the close vector with a line twice, and there we go. We are all set up. And now what we're going to do is turn the layer D on. And there is that. Now we're going to go back to, we're going to turn those two layers off. We're going to go back to layer 1, select that, and turn that on. And then I'm going to just copy that whole thing. I'm going to select everything, and I'm going to right click and copy to a new layer. The reason I'm doing this is because I'm about to cut more stuff out, and we want to make sure that we keep the original in there. So we're creating a layer, and we're going to call it original logo. Enter, and then we're going to go up to layers. We're going to go over to that one original logo. We're going to turn it off. That's just there for reference if we make some kind of mistake. And then we're going to make sure layer 1 is selected. It says layer 1 up there, and that is turned on. We are good. And we are going to eliminate JD out of there altogether. I'm doing this after all the other layers are turned off. In fact, one thing you want to do when you're popping back and forth from layers is sometimes you have things that are selected on layers that are turned off, and you can accidentally delete things that you don't want to. So sometimes it's a good habit to just click off into the side once before you start doing something after you switch layers. And that will deactivate things on invisible layers or turned off layers. So now we're going to select the JD, we're going to delete it, and we're going to rename this layer Crafter. And now we're going to turn on the J and the D. And this is their completed project with this problem solved, the original problem of getting these lines connected. This will also enable them to decide how they want to machine it and not have any other issues. You can select Vector Validator and there will be no alarms. So we're going to select that, and we're going to just select these items, and we're going to hit the button, search selected, and we did get an alarm. Why is that? I'll bet. Okay, we're getting that alarm probably because these are intersection points where these come together. And the way to solve any machining problems on this, well, first of all, the other reason that may have showed up is because of that one on the original layer. So I'm going to do something real quick. We're going to turn those layers, the other layers off. We're going to go to the original layer. I'm going to select it, and I'm going to click off to the side, and I'm going to grab everything and delete it. And now we're going to turn the other layers on. And then I'm going to do the Vector Validator again. We're going to select these guys, Vector Validator, search selected, and we still get that. And the reason we're getting that is because these are intersection points of the project that cross over. So there's another way of doing this. The way that I have just done this is to allow for these letters to be raised up, but not recessed. If I want to make them recessed, I have to do this a little bit differently. And that is by going with the original design that they had. If I come over to, I'm going to cancel that. I'm going to come over to layers. I'm going to go to turn those layers off, make sure we're on the original. I'm going to Control Z a couple times until we get that back. And then we'll have to work with this if they are going to make the letters raised up. But they're still going to have issues with this. This is going to be a challenging little thing to figure out how to machine it. Anyway, what I've just done is solved the machining problem they would have at the next step once they solve this line problem. And they will now be able to do some machining even with the Vector Validator issues. So if this video was helpful, gave you some insights into working around some unusual problems, then give me a thumbs up and maybe a comment down below. And if you have another suggestion of how to go about that, then of course I'm always open. I'm not perfect. I don't know everything. So that's it. This is Garrett with IDC Woodcraft. Have a great day, better tomorrow, and happy CNCing.